Hey, what's going on, guys? Archer Mark here, and a little something I want to talk to you guys about. It's not about Star Wars, it's not a review or anything. It's just something I was kind of thinking of over actually just recently, uh, literally maybe an hour or so ago. Um, so it's popped in my head, so I thought I'd make this video. We're in the midst of the summer movie season, which I always look forward to. You get all the big blockbusters, big exciting movies. Um, so far, so good. The Avengers has been kick ass. Uh, Came out in May, which at this point is considered the summer movie season at this point, even though it's really not summer till we hit June. But you have that. Men in Black 3, I saw, which is really good. It's I don't know if there were like high hopes for that movie, but it's very good. It's very funny. There's a lot of action. There's a little heart there, and Prometheus, which I was just blown away. Really loved it. But so it's not those movies that I wanted to talk about. One movie that isn't coming. That's something I wanted to talk about. Something I was actually very excited for, even though it was a sequel, but looked so much better than the original, and that is G.I. Joe Retaliation, which, if you don't know by now, was supposed to come out June 29th. Um, and it's not coming out. It's supposed to come out June 29th. It's not coming out. It got Paramount and Hasbro decided to delay it. Um, there's been a bunch of different stuff going around. The first thing we heard was that they decided, well, we want it to come out in 3D, so we're going to delay it until March of next year so we can convert it to 3D. If you wanted the movie to be in 3D, why didn't you shoot the movie in 3D in the first place? Were they asleep at Paramount? Did somebody not think of this earlier? But no. So you have that, but I've read some other things now where they did some test screenings of the movie, and a lot of people weren't happy about it. Now, there's a lot of characters, from what I can tell, get killed off, and I'm not sure. A lot of the actors and actresses weren't returning from the first movie, so I don't know what was going to happen with some of those characters. Like Cobra Commander, they recast, which is fine. But what about like Scarlet and Baroness and Destro? What about those characters? These are big characters. You can't just write them off. I don't know. Excuse me. So I don't know what the plan was for that. I won't know until March now. Uh, but that's the other thing that I had heard now was one of the things people were disappointed in is that there's not a lot of camaraderie between Duke and one of the big new characters for this movie, which was Roadblock, played by Dwayne Johnson, or The Rock. And the reason there isn't a lot of camaraderie between those characters is because apparently Duke dies within the first 10 minutes of the film. And spoiler alert, again, I should have said that before. Sorry. But I don't know for sure if that's what happens. I'm just going by something I read. So apparently they're doing some more reshoots, and so Duke can have a bigger part, which he should have a bigger part. I don't understand this. It doesn't make sense. See, and here's part of the problem, I think. Like I said, you have Roadblock is played by The Rock. He's a big star. Now I'm a big fan of The Rock. Roadblock's a great character. It should have been in the first movie instead of Heavy Duty. So fine, I don't have a problem with that. Then you have a character like Snake Eyes. Snake Eyes, badass, really badass. Is one of the probably he and Storm Shadow, probably the two of the most popular characters in G.I. Joe, whether it's the cartoon or toys or whatever, because they're just ninjas are cool. You know, I'll just put it out there. Ninjas are cool, so those characters are very popular. So, but you know, I know Channing Tatum isn't the biggest, you know, actor in the world. You know, his name's kind of been rising lately. He's been, you know, 21 Jump Street was a big hit, and a couple other movies. And weird thing is, on June 29th, there is a movie starring Channing Tatum coming out. It's just not G.I. Joe. It's something like Magic Mike, I think it's called, where he plays like a male stripper. I don't know. So we get Channing Tatum. We just don't. We get to see him as a male stripper instead of Duke. I don't know. But anyway, I don't understand. You can't. Duke is like the main character, especially if you grew up watching the 80s cartoon, the original 80s cartoon, and even most of the subsequent Joe cartoons that have come out since. Duke is the main character. He's the leader of the group. He's the field commander. You know, there are higher ups than Duke, but Duke is your field commander. You know, he's the leader. That's your main character. You can't don't kill off that character. You can't kill off that character, which makes me think. Now I'm going to get to my main point in a moment. Since Paramount and Hasbro are not going to give us the live-action G.I. Joe movie, at least not until next year, I decided to purchase this on Blu-ray. I've been wanting to get this on DVD for a while, and it's finally out on Blu-ray. And this came out in 1987. This is the animated G.I. Joe movie. And this is a pretty cool movie. There's lots of cool action. There's a little emotion there. There's some funny stuff. Some of it's a little cheesy and corny, but it was the 80s, you know. I ordered this on Amazon, and I'll show you. I just finished watching the movie, and so like the movie ended, and this is like your basic, like the title screen has come up again. It's just kind of like in this loop of it's just kind of in this loop of the action, waiting for somebody to hit play again. So you know, I'll show you. So that's that. I'm just going to leave that on because there's some special features I want to look at. So I picked that up, Amazon.com, and I'm going to get the invoice. This was, where's the price? $14.69. And it's a Blu-ray DVD combo, which I didn't even realize because I didn't notice that it said that in the description. I don't think it did. It's both. I realized it when I got the DVD in the mail, or the Blu-ray in the mail yesterday. It's a Blu-ray and DVD for less than $15. Can't beat that. I also picked up this, which is G.I. Joe, let's see, Series 2, which was basically after the first couple seasons of the original cartoon. This picks up where the G.I. Joe movie left off. And, you know, there's some good stuff in here. The first 5 episodes was like a 5-parter like miniseries, this thing called Operation Dragonfire. That was really good. That was a very good story. Some of the other stuff is not so good. You know, they switched to a different company and some different writers and different animation studio, and the animation wasn't as good, or just different. Not that it wasn't the way this looked, the original cartoon looked. But there's still some good stuff in there. You know, this is part 1, and then part 2 comes out in July. So I thought I'd pick that up, and that was cheap as well. That was, let's see, you get less $21.93, so less than $22, and it's 4 discs of the whole part series 2, season 1, which, or instead of part 1, season 1. Like I said, the second one comes out in July. I'll have to pick that up as well. But this animated movie made me think of, for those of you maybe are not familiar with there was the animated Transformers movie came out a year before this, and then this came out. This didn't actually come out in theaters. There was the Transformers movie didn't do so well. Plus, there was a lot of so it didn't do so well, so it didn't come out in theaters. It actually got released on TV, and then later on, it got filtered into the run of the series in the reruns. They kind of incorporated those episodes. They chopped it up into 5 parts and put it into. But this is, it's a pretty good movie. There's an interesting thing in here where, again, this came from reaction to the Transformers movie, where Optimus Prime, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it, dies in the animated movie, just like Michael Bay did in the second Transformers movie. Anyway, so he dies in the animated movie. They brought him back because there was such an outcry from fans. They eventually brought him back in the series. But in this, Duke dies. He's stabbed in the heart by one of Serpentor's snakes, and he goes into a coma. And he was supposed to die. They were going to kill the character off, but because there was such backlash, they just added a thing near the end where you hear like a character saying over the radio, it's like, General Hawk, Duke's come out of his coma, and he's going to be okay, and everyone starts cheering. They just threw that in, they didn't have to animate anything. They just looped in that line, which, if you didn't know it was added in afterwards, you wouldn't have known that it was added in. I've known this because it's just something I've learned over time. But anyway, it's a very good, get back to the later series a little bit. One problem you had a bunch of new characters, and they really focused on the new characters and the new vehicles. And then you had some of the old characters, but not a lot. It's like they put in enough to keep the older fans happy, I guess. But, and again, it was more focused on selling the toys than the other series was. That's why it wasn't as good. And selling the new characters, which was a big part of the 80s cartoons, unfortunately. Even though the cartoons themselves were really good, and there were good stories and all that, even though there was some cheesiness, was the 80s. So, they did this, and it wasn't as good. But one thing I always loved, especially after watching the movie, is, G.I. Joe and Transformers are supposed to be in that same sort of universe. And, a lot of the same sound effects were used, and a lot of the same voice actors were used. It was cool. Michael Bell, who did the voice of Duke, was the voice of Prowl and some other characters in Transformers. There's a guy, Greg Berger, who did Grimlock in Transformers and did a bunch of characters in G.I. Joe. One of the biggest, Frank Welker, who was Megatron, did voices in G.I. Joe. One of the biggest being, as far as the 2 series, was Chris Latta, who is no longer with us. But not only was he Cobra Commander and other characters in G.I. Joe, but he was Starscream in Transformers. So 2 big characters in both those series. So, again, G1 rules. I'm just going to say it. But yeah, it's a couple of good deals if you're interested in these movies. Amazon has them for good prices. I know it's the 80s, but it's good stuff. I know there's still a lot of Transformers or G.I. Joe fans. And, I would still recommend this, even though it's not as good as the original couple seasons. But that's it. That's my little talk. You can watch this. There's no live action movie, but we can look at the animated stuff. So, Alright, we're hitting 15 minutes, so I'm going to see you. So long. Yo, Joe.